Hi, I'm Paulina. I'm with the Saint, and I'm interviewing Nick Thornton, who's running to be Director of Events and Services. So why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and why you're running for the position?
Well, yeah, I'm a final year undergraduate. I'm the senior student of University in Whitehorn Halls. That's where I spend most of my free time doing social, educational, well-being events for that. I'm really keen on being Director of Events and Services because I've been coming to the union for 4 years, and I think I've got some small ideas and some very reasonable ideas that I can change within a year.
Well, the position is very contested this year. What makes you different from the other candidates?
Well, I think I have experience managing a large budget. As I said, I'm a senior student of one of the largest halls in St. Andrews, and last year I was head of events for the same committee. And I think having experience managing such a large amount of money really shows my responsibility and my ability to effectively spend.
Okay. So what do you think that the union has improved recently in terms of events?
Well, one thing I really enjoyed this year was how many all-union events there were. Full building, it's Halloween, St. Patrick's Day is coming up. I think that's a really great way to get people excited, and they always tend to sell out, so it must work.
Okay. And are there any events that you feel that aren't really good enough and you'd like to get rid of?
I think sometimes the BOP on some weeks will be a weaker theme, a weaker event than others. None of them I would want to cut it all together. Of course, the BOP is the most popular of the week, but I think we could really focus on coming up with new and varied themes rather than kind of recycling old ones.
Mm-hmm. So let's move on to talking about your manifesto. You talk about reducing prices. Can you talk about where you'd like to make these changes and what kind of changes you'd like to make?
Well, of course, the Director of Events and Services doesn't have too much influence in terms of prices, especially with drinks. I mean, that's very competitively priced, and it's not really the purview of that position. But I think in terms of event pricing, in terms of overall accessibility of perhaps like Booking 601 or maybe prices that it would cost to rent out equipment, I think that can be looked at. And I think overall, all I want to do is be an advocate for those who come to the union for its affordability.
You also talk about students not knowing about the different services that the union offers. How are you planning to improve the communication between the student body and the union?
I'm glad you asked. Advertising, advertising, advertising. One of the people on my campaign teams confessed to me the other day, I've never been to the top 2 floors of the union. And I think it's really something where if you don't go during the night, you might not be aware that these places exist, that they're comfortable, that you can get food in the main bar. And I think if we really just put out strong advertising, we'll bring in different people that wouldn't come during the night, that want to come during the day for these other opportunities.
Okay. So you also talk about having more consistent events in your manifesto. Can you talk more about what kind of events those would be and how you'd stop events from just becoming mediocre and consistent?
Yeah, I mean, of course, one of the big things that defines whether an event is successful or not is not necessarily it itself, but where we are in the semester. Do people have deadlines coming up? So I think in that sense, the union does a lot of what it can already do. But at the same time, better planning for weekly events like the BOP, better planning far in advance means themes won't have to be recycled. You can have more varied decorations, more just changes in the union in general that require that additional foresight.
Oh, so what you mean by that is just putting more effort into the events that the union does have instead of just kind of pushing out the same event over and over again?
That's exactly right.
Okay. So how are you planning to work with other parts of the union to actually make the union better as a whole?
Maybe you could be, what do you mean by other parts of the union?
Well, like the other sabbatical positions, the other positions that have control over other sectors of the union.
Yeah, of course. One of the things I do want to do is increase the sort of responsibility and safety initiatives in the union. I think that will require a good amount of collaboration with the Director of Wellbeing. They've got great, simple, effective posters, got consent, and I think there's a lot of room to branch out with that. And I think together we can sort of address other things in an effective way and in a subtle way, which I believe is the most effective. Other things like domestic abuse, like drink spiking, I think one thing that's very effective is advertising the toilets. Because everyone's in there, you see it, and it's kind of a private location where you can take the time to actually read something and interpolate and integrate.
Okay. So do you have any new ideas that would improve student safety, or how safe students feel for the next year?
I mean, we're very lucky as it stands. I mean, it's a very safe town. It's a very safe union. I personally haven't had any incidents, but that doesn't mean that other people don't. I think one thing that can be done that's very simple is training the bar staff to have a sort of code word. Doesn't matter what it is, but if someone's having a problem, and they can convey this to the bar staff discreetly, and the bar staff can in turn contact a bouncer if necessary.
Okay. So what is the biggest change that you feel needs to be made to the union right now in terms of events? And in the wider sense as well.
I think publicity is a big issue, and it's a major focus of my campaign as well. Of course, some of the purview of the Director of Events and Services, the design team, so I'm very keen to work with them closely. They do a great job creating posters and graphics for Facebook, which is a good way of advertising, but I think there's other ways that we can reach people, branch out, posters, and sort of maybe making the weekly emails from the union a bit more concise and a bit more catching.
Okay. Also, I wanted to ask, what do you think makes an event, what elements make an event good, and how can you, because a lot of what your role would involve would be making events fun and catch people's eye. What elements do you think make that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, what makes an event successful is really in the eye of the beholder. I mean, some people would want a more subdued event. I've had a suggestion for pub night, lights on, music off. But some people like, 2 years ago you might remember, we had Christian Nairden for quote-unquote Rave of Thrones. Some of that high energy, big name, very exciting events. And I think overall the most important thing is that if your friends want to come to an event at the union, you're more likely to want to come as well. Mm-hmm. So it's coming up with something new, it's being different, and it's making sure that the anticipation is there.
Okay, cool. So if you don't mind giving us like a final pitch of why people should vote for you as Director of Events and Services in the next election.
Well, I think there are a lot of very good candidates for all the roles, and I think we share the same regard and the same hopes. But I do believe that I have a good deal of experience. I believe my work in the past speaks for itself in terms of events that I've done and outreach that I've done, and I think overall just choosing quality over quantity and responsibility in general.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.